Hello, Dave here, and thanks again for clicking on the link and the video. This is a bit of a follow-up video, really, to the one I done on Stockton Castle, the Bishop's Manor House, and really it's to show how really important parts of the Stockton's add-on history, what I've added onto, just gets lost, very quickly and very quickly put out of people's minds. But to begin with, I'll start you off with Google Earth. Where I live, and where this is about, is my hometown of Stockton-on-Tees. This down here is the main town on the river. The site that I'm interested in basically is up here. So I'll just talk you through it briefly. For if you haven't seen the last video, I was very interested in proving the history groups wrong and proving that there was a medieval manor house on this site. I got the backing, I got the funding, and everything went tits up basically. The dig never went ahead and I could not prove what I wanted to prove. That was medieval period. As I got permission to walk all these fields around here, one of the things I started picking up was flint material. Now, I knew it was flint, but apart from being flint, I just didn't have a clue. But what I started to do was collect these bits of flint, and then when Tees Archaeology comes around once a year to have a look at the pottery I've been collecting, I showed them these flints that I've been picking up, flint material. Just prior to me starting to pick up these bits of flint material, I was given permission to go on the land for one day with the metal detector. And one of the very first things that I got with the metal detector, there was only two really important finds, but the first one was relating to the Bronze Age. Now, Bronze Age in this country, as you can see, they were just peasant farmers, really, hunter-gatherers, basic mud huts, really, thatch roofs, wattle and daub walls, just basically small family life, really. But the thing I can't get my head wrapped around, Bronze Age, which is 1700 to 2300 BC. While in this country, this is how we were living and existing. This was our level of sophistication, so to speak. Look at that Temple of Karnak. While we were running about with, clubs and spears and wearing animal skins, if we believe the same timeline, not that many million miles away, people were building structures like this. But that's not what I'm here. Time Team. I've tried to get Time Team involved in the main dig on the medieval site, but that didn't come off. But the reference I want to make to Time Team is when you're talking about what I call the Stone Age period, men that were using flint tools. I've seen many episodes. I've seen all the Time Team episodes, many even, several times over. But I've seen poor Phil, he's been head down the hole for 2 bloody days and it's bucketing down, and the last minute before it all closes down the dig, there's a huge cheer, and he's found a piece of flint, and it's a work piece of flint, and he'll show you it's about the size of a thumbnail. And you can see it's a work piece of flint, so you can see the rippling effect on it, and he gets really excited, and there's a big piss up in the pub on the night, and they're all celebrating this one tiny piece of flint, and as a result of that, they've deducted that Bronze Age people used to live there. And I'll show you the comparison. This is the first Bronze Age artifact that I come across, totally by accident. It's a Bronze Age adze. It's an axe, only it chops the opposite way for stripping down what it says there. Small bronze tool is at the Middle Bronze Age and would have been hafted onto a wooden handle. It would have been used for powering down and shaping wood, with the cutting edge set at 90 degrees to the handle. The find is still a bit of a mystery. There's very few Bronze Age sites in Stockton. No, it's important. Perhaps it was a casual loss, or maybe it points to a larger site of this period just waiting to be discovered. Now, I'll say sort of like from here and now, everything that I found, T's archaeology obviously logged it for me, and it's on the Sites and Monuments records, where everything was put down as a casual loss. There's no way at all they would commit themselves to a possible settlement. Now, this is the said item. It's only small, as you can see, it's only in centimetres. I actually give this to the landowner. I give it to his wife as a thank you for allowing me to walk on the land, so to speak. This was the second find I come across. Now that's Bronze Age barbed arrowhead. These are, it's not my interpretation, you know, these have been authenticated and they've been listed on the Sites and Monuments records. That's just the two of them together. See, this is another Bronze Age scraper, double-edged scraper, another casual find, so to speak. This, I'll show you this because this is what they call a discoidal knife. It's a Bronze Age knife, and they were a very high status, basically. It was basically a lump of flint that's been fashioned to a lovely smooth disc and has wonderful cutting edges all the way around. Now, this is a fine example out of the British Museum. Let's have a look at my finding. Look at that. You know, as Bronze Age tools go, you don't get much finer than that. And these type of tools were held by people of high status of power, you know, maybe village elders or heads of family or local lords or noblemen, whatever the sort of ruling elite was at the time, if there was such a thing. But this area here, where you can see how smooth it is, this would eventually would in the beginning have been like that all the way around. This is these chips out of it and smashes, you know, I think because it's been chewed up in the combine, harvested a few times or whatever. But these are the levels of finds that I was picking up. That's just the back of the same scraper. I've not only had a display, museum display in the school, I used to put weekend displays on as well. Various history groups, that type of thing. And what I'd do, I'd go to the school on a Friday afternoon, clear out the bits and pieces I need out of their display, use them over the weekend for my portable display. It's just one of the boards that used to go with the portable display. You know, it had become really, really big knowledge, not only around the local community and villages and that, but also in the local schools. That's just a selection of, what's that arrowhead you've already seen, thumbnail scraper, they're weird little things. These blade fragments at the bottom here, that's what we call a notch blade, which is even rarer than the two blade fragments, because the blade fragment, the edge is being created, and then there's been a special notch put in for a specialist job that they were using that tool for. So as you can see, it's building up quite a massive amount of evidence for Bronze Age occupation. This was one of the ones that blew me away, because we go from Bronze Age, we now into Neolithic, which is even further back in time. You know, this is a Neolithic end and side scraper. It's beautiful quality and beautiful workmanship on it. It is difficult to see, but if I just blow it up a bit, all these individual tiny little marks are all notches that have been put in separately. You know, it was like a serrated edge all the way around. That's where it's been smashed, that's been damaged. Which for, I don't know, 3000 BC, it's not doing too bad. That's just the back of it. That was your Neolithic. Then you start going to your Mesolithic, which is even before that. Now these are registered as 3 pebble choppers, and that's basically what they are. They're just a very basic implement that's being fashioned out of a pebble or a stone. Then you start getting onto these things, which are what are called flint cores. These are from Neolithic, Mesolithic period. These little tiny slivers that you see here, the flint struck at such an angle that it shatters off these tiny little, they're like razor blades, they're so sharp. And they're the things that used to be stuck at the end of arrows. You know, the basic bow and arrow was basically a stick, and at the end would be split with these bloody things stuck in, so, you know, for maximum damage. And that's just another angle. You know, you can see all these different sort of faces have all been put in separately. See, that's another bloody big, there's mention of this coming up. That's an unusual piece of not flint, it's called cherts. So it's not classed as a flint too. It's also damaged as well at the tip. That's another one of these Mesolithic flint cores, where they're actually to purposely shatter just very fine fragments off for the bows and arrows. Right, give me anonymity away. Yes, these are how the things are reported, really. A small collection, my name, that type of thing. The flints include 20 pieces of angular waste. Now, whether it's angular waste or whatever type of waste, it's waste material, so somebody's had to crafted something to get the waste material. So that's another form of occupation in my eyes. 2 cores, multi-platform with blade removals, well, they're the ones I've just shown you. The 3 split pebbles, possibly choppers, well, rather they are choppers or they're not, you know, in my eyes, but putting possibly, it removes that definite that they are, if you know what I mean. End and edge scraper, broken scraper, retouch flakes also broken. The cores appear to be Mesolithic or early Neolithic in date, with end and edge scrapers being Neolithic in character. This is 2 years' reports put into one. The following year, in September, comprised of 4 flakes, 2 irregular burnt pieces, 2 cores, burnt thumbnail scraping. That adds the Bronze Age dimension to it. So just in 2 seasons alone, you've got Bronze Age, you've got Neolithic, and you've got Mesolithic. If you listen to what they tell you on time scene, you know, that's a 1 in a billion sight. Right, burnt flint. Now, burnt flint, one of the things it was used for cooking purposes as such, you know, once you've had your cooking pot on and all your meals all cooked up, you don't want to keep it on the heat for it to bubble and boil away. You get a nice big hunk of flint that you put in the fire, you drop it into your pot, and it keeps your meal warm. So, you know, this is another, in my eyes, evidence of occupation, but sadly not in their eyes. Right, angular waste. Can never get my head around this, the way that they keep listing it as angular waste, because, you know, these shapes are fashioned out of a pebble. You know, there might not be a finished tool, but there's one hell of a lot of work gone into getting a pebble like that. So, but you see, here's another one. You know, it's a perfect example. I mean, you've not only got your ripples of your large flakes that have been took off, but if you can see, you can see best on the shadows, actually. The tiny little serrated edge that's been put on there, you know, to give you like a chopping effect, sawing effect, like serrated knives are. But this is put down as waste material. Whereas I keep harping back to, and I used to with these archaeology Somebody had to create the waste in the first place. Now, one of the things that they did come up with was occupation. They wouldn't go along with occupation, but what it might be is some type of, like, in a sense, hunting camp. The hunter-gatherers of the area, they would pop through that site, and, you know, that would be where they'd stop on a night and light a fire and sort themselves some foods out and that. But again, no commitment to the fact that there could be occupation. These are the two basic types of flint material you get, really. There's these nice multicoloured pebble flints that you can get. They're basically pebbles, that's all they are. Or you have this type of stuff, the black stuff. These are the ones that, you know, especially down south, there's Bronze Age flint mines all over the place. And that's the stuff they're mining out, the black stuff. I mean, some of the sizes of lumps of black stuff I've got flint, you know what I mean, they're huge, you know, twice the size of a bag of sugar. And it's all have got to be imported into the area, but one of the excuses I was given, well, they used to use it for ballast in boats, but the river's 2.5 miles away, you know what I mean, there's no boats around here. So, see, these are more, I mean, each individual, you know, groove, as you see, they've all been taken out separately. You know, there's work gone into getting it to that stage. And because it's not fashioned in a certain shape, it's not classed as a tool. You know, you've got pretty strict guidelines to follow, I would assume. And, you know, this is just the type of flint material that, you know, I could walk onto the field now if they'd ploughed it over. And it's not the odd one or two pieces that you find over the course of a day. Within your first half a dozen footsteps, you're going to find flint. And it's all had to have been brought into the area, or the flint pebbles, which a lot of these are. I've had a talk with, you know, one of the archaeologists, and we do actually believe that there's a layer of, for want of a better word, we were once underneath the sea here. That's where all these flint pebbles have come from. Right. What I'll just briefly do is go back to Google Earth before I finish up. As I mentioned on the other video, the one about the castle, my range of walking used to be as far up here, right across here, all the way down here. Now, I've walked every single one of them fields dozens and dozens of times. There's no flint up there at all. You know, none whatsoever. You come down pretty close to the castle site and you start hitting your Bronze Age. This tiny, tiny little 2-acre site down here. And that's all, it's only this side of the hedge, because that actual side is about 10 foot below this side. This side's a lot higher raised. Now you've got late medieval, early medieval, tons of early medieval to match the manor house. You've got Bronze Age, you've got Neolithic, and you've got Mesolithic, all in that one area there. This field I've got permission for, but it's never ever been cultivated as such. It's grazing land, so there's nothing to see. You know, the plough's not there to turn anything over. But this is a mega, mega, mega important piece of land. Now, after all this had basically, I lost a lot of interest when, you know, the permission for that dig or the money didn't go through for the dig. I'll still concentrate on this little bit of an area down here. And up to date, I think I've still got a couple of finds that need logging. But this little area here, I would say, you know, it's one of the most important pieces of land that Stockton has. Maybe even Cleveland has. But as I mentioned, that you can't prove that there's occupation unless you have a dig to prove that. I fully understand that. But I phoned up the landowner 2 years ago. This is long after I stopped field walking. basically to ask permission to see if I can go on here with my brother, because he just bought a drone. And it was somewhere for him to get used to it. It's away from, the estate. And so the landowner said, yeah, no bother. He said, anyway, well, you're up with your friends when they were doing the dig. And I just have to say, well, what dig? He said, well, the land's up for sale. So with it being greenbelt land, there's got to be an archaeological, survey done. It's not full geophys or anything like that. I think it's just the digging of a few test pits. Now, you would have thought, with the amount of hundreds of hours I've spent on that little bit of a field here, that, Tees Archaeology, if they were interested in finding out what was actually down there, might have just given me a ring. Maybe it's going against protocol, I don't know. But if that's what the intentions were, that they wanted to find out, I'm the person to ask. Because I'd tell them areas not to dig and where best to dig. Because like I said, I've spent hundreds of hours on that field alone. And surprise, surprise, all the artifacts that I've found, which are just basically what are called casual losses, the archaeological survey they've done on this land proved to be of no historical value whatsoever. And the plans now are to build houses on this land now. That was what the landowner was telling me. They put the land up for sale. There was a developer interested in it, building houses on there, but that was dependent on what the archaeological survey found. And surprise, surprise, the archaeological survey never found anything. But I would still say today, and I've got all the artifacts to prove it, that is one of the most important pieces of land in Stockton. Now, the thing is, how things are lost in time. This was never classed as a settlement or of interest as a settlement down here. There's no history book in Stockton that will ever mention this. The fact that the amount of finds that have been found on this one piece of land, how important it could be. That's not to say you can't get hold of the records of these things being recorded, but it's not like a website you can go to and just, for example, type in Carlton and Bronze Age finds. You got to go through usually a third party, which will be Tees Archaeology. I've just shown you a few samples of things I've found. Everything is listed. It all been appraised by professionals. It's been listed by professionals. But this piece of land, I've proved how important it was in medieval times. I've proved how important it was, going back many, many thousands of years. But yet there's no supplement on Stockton History or no history group or anything that you'll find that references these finds here. It's just lost in that respect. So I hope you enjoyed that one. It's just a little look-see really into how things are. I've got to say, at this point, Peter from Tees Archaeology that was helping me, his specialist field is flint and that, and he's invaluable. I learned so much off the bloke, it's unbelievable. I've got a lot to thank him for, I really have. But, the people at Tees Archaeology, I'm not knocking any of them, they're following procedure. They can't turn around and say that there's a settlement here if there hasn't been a dig. And after that just seems to have been given the all clear that it's of no historic value, this land, maybe it's something that, give it another 30, 40 years down the line, it'll be lost in time forever. So anyway, it wasn't a mud flood video, but I hope you found it, enjoyable or interesting all the same. Thanks very much indeed for watching, and I hope to catch you again soon. Bye.